So I want to show you how to bake your sourdough loaf in a Dutch oven. I'm going to put semolina on the surface just so that I can put my hand on there to feel what it feels like, to see whether or not it's proved. And can you see it's uniformly airy all over? I can't feel that it's dense in the centre. It's nicely light all the way around, so that's great. And what we're going to bake it in is a casserole pot. So I've got here some baking parchment, 2 layers of baking parchment and a baker's peel. You don't need to buy a baker's peel either. You can just use a baking tray turned upside down so that you've got the flat side of it, and then pop the baking parchment on there and then turn the banneton onto the baking parchment on the peel or tray. Okay, so to slash it, you need to slash a sourdough loaf when you put it into the oven. The reason for that is you have to give it somewhere to burst from, okay? And so you're telling it where to burst. If you don't slash it, it'll rise up in oven spring and you will end up with a big ball of dough somewhere that you didn't want. This is a tomato knife or a baker's razor, which is specifically for baking, a razor blade in a grignette like that, okay, with a safety cover, all important when you're using razor blades. But I'm going to show you how to do it with a tomato knife because you may have one of these at home already. So I'm going almost parallel, so about sort of 20 to 30 degree angle to the loaf. I'm not cutting down like that, I'm cutting so that the knife cuts into the dough and slices under the skin, and that's how you'll get it to open up. And then I'm going not to the centre but slightly off the centre, and I'm taking the knife right down, okay, and I can go through it again if I want to. My casserole dish heating in the oven, so it's really nice and hot now. The oven is set at 220 degrees centigrade. It's been on for half an hour. Protecting my surface with an oven cloth and a tea towel. And I'm using heavy duty oven gloves. Okay, so the baking parchment is so that you can lift it and pop it in. Now what you end up with is a ruffled edge to your loaf because of the baking parchment, but it's a way around trying to drop that loaf in. You can ease it in with the baking parchment and then you don't lose all of the air. If you drop it in, the chances are the air will deflate out of it and the force as it hits the bottom of the casserole dish. So this will create a ruffled effect, but actually it is a lovely rustic and attractive appearance. I'm just cutting off the excess so that I can close the lid and give it a really good seal. Pop it in the oven. As the loaf bakes, the water comes out of the loaf as it's baking, creating a beautiful steamy atmosphere inside that casserole dish, and you've got that lid securely on, keeping that steam in there. So it's had 15 minutes in the oven with the lid on. There you are. And now it's going to go back into the oven, the lid off, for 25-30 minutes to get nice and golden brown. Okay, so if I do the centre, it's 87, and I think it's a little bit pale for me. I like mine a bit darker. So what I'm going to do is try to pull it out here without burning myself. And I'm going to pop it back on the solid shelf without it being in the casserole dish and just crust up around the edges. So that is looking better. It's all the way around evenly baked colour now, whereas before this was very pale and underbaked. Sounds hollow, which is a good sign. So let's pop the temperature probe back in just to the centre and 93. So we're good to go, 97 now. So we know it's definitely baked. It's got that lovely dark coloured appearance. So it needs to cool completely now before we slice into it. It's really important that it does that. As dough cools, the starch is set, and the dough, the crumb itself sets. If you were to cut into it when it's warm, you get a dough that looks like it's underbaked, and actually all you need to do is let it cool.